Welcome to the bonfire, unkindled one.
Hey everyone, it's Blue Lizard Jello, and welcome back to Everything Possible in Dark Souls 3. Last time we explored the Demon Ruins, we picked up a couple of Pyromancy tomes, and more importantly, we splashed around in some lava, sometimes successfully, other times not so much. And now, we are finally going to be heading across the Great Bridge into Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. But first, a couple of preparations as always. First, let's talk to Cornix.
Ah, there you are, unkindled one.
Because we gave him the Carthus Pyromancy Tome, we do have access to the Carthus Flame Arc, which is a pyromancy that we can use, and it will add fire damage that scales with the power of our Pyromancy Flame to our melee weapon. Next, let's head over to Arena and buy a single miracle from her.
Oh, Champion of Ash, welcome back.
And we are actually going to utilize Tears of Denial. This is accessed once you've given her the Boreal Divine Tome of Karim, and the way that this works is when you cast it upon yourself, you will actually get essentially what's known as a second chance, which is actually the name of the spell in other Souls games. If your health gets down to 0, be it from an enemy or from a fall, you will actually immediately regain 1 hit point and avoid dying. This effect will last until you die, leave the area, or quit the game. But before we head to Irithyll, let's take a look at the gear we'll be using today. I have the Barbed Straight Sword upgraded to +4 that we got from killing Longfinger Kirk. For range attacks, we have the Dragon Rider Bow, the Llewellyn Shield that we got from killing Horus down in the Smoldering Lake, Pyromancy Flame, and the Priest Chime for casting Tears of Denial. And for Fashion Souls, we have the Northern Helm, Drang Armor, Hard Leather Gauntlets, and the Northern Trousers. And while this is Fashion Souls, it will actually help a little bit because that armor also has some very good frost resistance. I have the Saint's Ring for another attunement slot, the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring for the lengthening of the spell buff effect, the Life Ring, and Chloranthy Ring. And very simple with the hotbar, Estus Flask, Ashen Estus, Alluring Skulls, and a single Undead Hunter Charm for a particular red phantom we'll be fighting. And here are my stats, and if you want to take a closer look, go ahead and pause the video now. And that is the last of the preparations. Everything else I've already done off camera, so let us go ahead and attune our spells. Let's get Tears of Denial, which does take 2 slots, which is why we needed the Saint's Ring, and of course the Carthus Flame Arc. But now let's head to Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. One of the most gorgeous views in the entire game. But before we actually go anywhere, we're going to immediately cast Tears of Denial. And I'll tell you exactly why we're doing it here. You can see that used almost all of my focus points, but sitting at the bonfire does not eliminate the Tears of Denial effect, but it does restore your FP. So essentially, you get a free cast as long as you're near a bonfire. Now, unfortunately, it does have that humming sound that you can hear in the background there, and that just doesn't go away. So hopefully it's not too loud in the video, and well, hopefully if you decide to use it yourself, it doesn't drive you too crazy. Be careful when crossing this bridge, because once you get about a quarter of the way across, a Sullivan's Beast will appear. These enemies can be incredibly dangerous. I have dubbed them the Crocodogs for their half crocodile, half dog-like appearance, but they have a lot of attacks, some of which they can combo together extremely quickly. Now, the Barbed Straight Sword is a weapon that I actually chose somewhat specifically just for the Sullivan's Beast because they are able to be bled. In fact, they are very susceptible to bleed, and they're weak to fire. So if I can use a weapon that already has bleed built in and I can add a flame attack to it, then I'm actually attacking on 3 different fronts: physical, bleed, and fire. I'm staying pretty close because I don't want him to do his jump attacks. I don't want him to do grab attacks if I can help it. But if I do need healing, I am able to back up as long as I do so quickly to heal. Now, their heads are weak points, and if you can get a few hits directly into the head or the face, they will actually get staggered, open themselves up for a critical attack. And there are 2 more Sullivan's Beasts that we'll fight later on, and hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate that stagger because there's an interesting after effect. But when you kill this one on the bridge, or if you kill him down below, and I'll talk more about that later, you get the Pontiff's right eye. Bewitched ring that Pontiff Sullivan bestowed upon his knights. Knights who peer into the black orb are lured into battles of death, transformed into frenzied beasts. No wonder the Pontiff only provides these rings to those dispatched to foreign lands. When you're wielding this ring, you can gain up to 15% attack bonus damage, and it does stack with the Carthus beacon, but the trick is you have to keep attacking. It takes somewhere between 3 and 5 hits depending on the weapon you're using in order to start getting that attack bonus. And the more you attack, the more you can sustain that bonus. There's a homeward bone here, and you can see the shimmering almost like fog gate right before you enter Irithyll. This is a barrier that will only be accessible if you have the small doll in your inventory from killing the Deacons of the Deep. Large soul of a nameless soldier here, and a rime blue moss clump here. The rime blue moss clump functions just like the other moss clumps in that it reduces a particular effect. In this case, it is frost or removing frostbite. Here's a soul of a weary warrior, and we do have a bonfire immediately here in this center. And we're actually going to use it to go back to Firelink Shrine. And I will be honest, I actually do one more trip back to Firelink Shrine than I need to. This is not optimal. I'll tell you about it in just a little bit when we do the next step in a certain NPC's questline, because had we combined those two trips, we would have saved ourselves some time. But now we're going to go and talk to Greirat, now that we've crossed that bridge.
Oh, hello. Fine work, I say. Discovering Irithyll in the Boreal Valley, all in a day's work. If the tales are true, it is home to old moon-worshipping nobles, and should be packed with treasure. What do you think? Shall I go and see what I can find?
Now this is Greirat's second expedition and the first chance that he can actually die. You do need to follow one of 2 questlines in order to save him. Siegward is the questline that we are following because we did give him the armor while he was down in the well, but if we didn't buy the armor from Patches, we could actually use him to save Greirat.
Fine choice. I am Greirat the Thief. What I bring back will be worthy of that name.
Now at this point, in order to keep him alive, there are 2 things we need to do. One, we need to locate Siegward in Irithyll Valley, and we need to keep him there and not actually progress his quest any further, and then we need to kill a boss. In this case, it's going to be Pontiff Sullivan. But now, let's head back to Irithyll Valley, but we're going to go to the first bonfire, the one just before the bridge. As soon as we turn this corner, we can see the message over here on the right, which is just a developer message explaining that you do need the small doll. But over here to the left, we now have a summon sign, and this is not actually a summon sign to pull someone into your world. In fact, this is one of a couple instances in this game where you will actually go into the NPC's world and assist them. One of my favorite mechanics in all of Dark Souls 3. And here we are in the world of Sirris of the Sunless Realms, and it's time to get ready. And while we can't see him yet, there he is. She is fighting the Dark Spirit, Creighton the Wanderer. If you've played Dark Souls 2, no doubt you remember Creighton the Wanderer. Supposedly from the Land of Mirror, although we're not actually quite sure because his armor seems to indicate he may have stolen it, and he was a very clear rival of Pate from Dark Souls 2. And at one point, if you followed their questline, you actually had to make a choice as to who lived and who died. I think I actually switched it up every playthrough because I wasn't sure which one I trusted least. This fight can get dragged on and on because even though I have hit him with an Undead Hunter charm, he can actually heal not only with Estus Flasks, but also with Divine Blessings. And while his normal hits aren't too bad, although I am taking some damage, it's once he's used Warcry that you do have to be very careful. He will actually use both Undead Hunter charms as well as the dual charms, so any buffs you have on you might be stripped away if you're not careful. But that is it. Once you've helped Sirris defeat Creighton the Wanderer, your duty has been fulfilled and you will go home.
Thank you for your kind assistance. Blessing of the moon upon your journey.
This can be an important event for 2 reasons. One, this will advance Sirris' questline, and we're actually going to head back to Firelink Shrine now and talk to her, but also it allows you to be invaded by Creighton later on in Irithyll Valley, which will then allow you to get his weapon and his armor set. And this is the point where I could have saved myself some time. Had I just done that invasion and then go back to Firelink, I could have talked to Greirat and Sirris at the same time, so I apologize for the lack of optimization here.
I have not thanked you for your generous rescue. That dark spirit was one of Rosaria's fingers, vile bastard offspring who lurk in the darkness. My sworn enemies. Fearsome invaders, to say the least. I would not have made it alone. You have my deepest gratitude.
And she gives us the Blessed Mailbreaker and the Silver Cat Ring. Now the Mailbreaker is just the regular Mailbreaker with the Blessed Infusion, which we've talked about a number of times. The Silver Cat Ring functions like half of the Spook Sorcery, in that if you're wearing the ring and you take a fall that is survivable, you will actually not take any fall damage whatsoever.
If you require help on your travels, I offer you my sign. Blessing of the moon upon your journey.
Now let's head back to Irithyll and actually start exploring. Once again, casting Tears of Denial. And then resting so we can get our FP back immediately. And now take your time with Irithyll. There is a lot to look at and a lot to be discovered, but there's also these phantoms. We're going to see a total of 4 of them, and we'll talk more about their significance once we see the final 2 towards the end of the video. But now, we have Pontiff Knights to deal with, and I find that one of the easiest ways to deal with them is by parrying. So while I've been holding off for the majority of this series, it's time to show you that I can actually parry sometimes. I can also take some needless hits because of it. But that is actually why I chose this particular shield. I actually don't block with it at all in this video, but it does have some really good parry frames, but it also goes with the armor set pretty well. You can see there, occasionally, if your timing is not perfect, you may still get the parry, but you'll also take some partial damage. And that's okay. Being able to kill these enemies in just 2 hits is definitely worth that trade-off. Taking that Pursuers to the shoulder was actually not a trade-off at all, that was just free damage for them. The 2 Pontiff Knights that we've seen so far, one of them has a shield, one does not. When they have the shield, typically they'll actually hang back and they won't be too aggressive. They give you a really good opportunity to break their guard if you can remember how to do the kick. Back here on this corpse, we have a Soul of a Weary Warrior. Over here on the left, we see a locked door that doesn't open from the side, and inside, we have an Evangelist all by her lonesome. I wonder if that Evangelist has any significance or importance whatsoever. Probably not. Up here we have a large Titanite shard and another glorious view of Irithyll. And just as soon as we start climbing these stairs, we have another phantom of one of the Boreal Outrider Knights. Now in this courtyard currently there are only 2 enemies and they're not too difficult to deal with. So we'll go ahead and just start taking them out now, but I am going to draw them to the back if I can. And I apparently missed that parry but also didn't take damage. That was very interesting because in the back we have a new enemy as well as several more of these hollow types with the crazy looking hair, and we don't want to fight them all in one large group. We just got a Budding Green Blossom and a large soul of a Nameless Soldier. The Budding Green Blossom is an upgraded version of the Green Blossom. This will be a more potent form and you'll get even better stamina regeneration. We'll actually get a unique one as part of Sirris' questline later on, but if you want to farm the Budding Green Blossoms, you'll have to fight the Sewer Centipedes later in Irithyll Valley. But now we have an enemy known as a Boreal Immolator, typically known as a Fire Witch since that is the name of their armor set. You can see here that Pyromancies are the name of their game and they have a few different types. They have this type that actually explodes directly underneath where you're standing. They can shoot lines of fire across the ground. They can shoot it straight out in front of them using their immolation tinder. They have a number of different spells, so it is best to clear out any other enemies around them before you focus on them. Also, if you get too close, they can use that as a melee weapon, and it can do some pretty good damage. There are not too many of these fire witches in Irithyll Valley, but they are definitely worth farming because they have an incredibly cool armor set that can drop, as you can see here, but you can get the immolation tinder as a weapon. Unfortunately, it functions just like a sorcery staff, and it actually can't cast pyromancies, which I always found a bit odd. A few more of these enemies here, so we'll use an alluring skull to group them together. And then here's my mistake, trying to get fancy, and then absolutely being obliterated by that attack. Throwing another alluring skull instead of an Estus flask because that's how I roll. Then over here underneath this tree, you get two more of the Rime Blue moss clumps, and you can see another fire witch just looking down on us. My advice is to run up here as quickly as you can, hugging the right wall, and going immediately to that fire witch, because you see those two Pontiff Knights that were coming our way? We definitely don't want to take on all three at the same time. Not doing a whole lot of damage with the barbed straight sword, but it is doing enough to be able to take them out with relative ease as long as they're alone. There's another large Titanite shard. And now we have to play the waiting game because, again, I want to fight these as individually as I can. Now, unfortunately, the one with the shield did spot me, but he's going to fire off one pursuer and then go back to his patrol. The goal is going to be to try to split them using the Dragon Rider bow, but I hit the wrong enemy. Anytime these two are together, you want to aim for the enemy without the shield if you're trying to pull them, because they're a lot more aggressive. If you hit the one with the shield, like I'm about to do, typically he'll just stay back and turtle and continue firing pursuers, meanwhile the other one will likely see you and then attack you himself as well. Which is exactly what happens here. Fortunately, it actually works in such a way that they do end up separated, and I just have to stay behind a structure to avoid the pursuers. Knowing that he's coming my way, I'm going to go ahead and buff and get ready. And I'm going to show you an example of an unlocked parry. It can be done. Here he comes in full force. And there's the parry. And just like I typically do with backstabs, we get the parry, the riposte, and then charged R2 for the win. And now because he is once again turtling behind his shield, gonna go ahead and break his guard and get that critical. By the way, these enemies are using the Pontiff Curved Sword, which you can get as a drop, as well as the shield if they're using a shield, and their armor. Heading up onto this ledge in order to get the Crystal Lizard. Getting our free Twinkling Titanite. And then if we look down below, it just appears that there's another area. There's definitely an enemy there, but there's no way down. Or is there? I don't know why I said it like that. It really wasn't that mysterious. And here you'll see that I am not always as good at parrying as I would like to believe. I am good at taking a lot of hits though. And you almost got to see Tears of Denial in effect. You can see there I took some more partial damage, but that's just fine. I will always take that trade if I have to. And a large Titanite shard on this corpse. And then, when we head down these stairs, stand on this small bridge, you can see that we are now in this section with the single evangelist. But before we get her attention, we can actually grab this shiny, which is the Witch Tree Branch. The Witch Tree Staff is a sorcery staff that has the steady chance skill, so it can boost your sorceries for a short period of time. It doesn't really have any sort of remarkable damage. Its claim to fame is just how fast it can cast. When you use this branch in order to cast sorceries, it functions like any other staff if you're using the Sage Ring. Unfortunately, the Sage Ring does not stack with the Witch Tree Branch. But because the Evangelist has her back to us, let's go ahead and do what we do best. They are fairly strong against fire, so me adding the Carthus Flame Arc actually didn't add too much damage, but that's just fine. I'll take any bonus at this point. And now you're just gonna fight her like any other evangelist, just one with a lot more health. Anytime she's going for that burning hug of death, just strafe around to the side for a free backstab. Or, if you really want to get fancy, wait for the hug and jump right in there. And you get Doris's Gnawing, a dark miracle. Summon great insect swarm to feast on foes. Miracle of Doris, the deranged evangelist. Those who linger too long on the brink of the deep will often slip. Doris is sure to have wallowed in this darkness, intoxicated by its peril. This miracle will cause direct dark damage on the target that you hit, but it will also, and more importantly, cause an immense amount of bleed buildup. This would be an upgrade to the Gnaw miracle, one that we haven't seen yet because it comes from one of the dark tomes that we have not yet given to Irina. This spell can be very useful against the Sullivan beasts. So let's just go ahead and sprint back up, head to the town square, and we'll continue from there. And very soon, we're actually going to see a familiar face. Strike that. We're going to see a couple of familiar faces. Aesthetically speaking, I think Irithyll of the Boreal Valley is one of the most gorgeous areas in Dark Souls 3. It has large spanning vistas, it has this beautiful city that is actually in remarkable shape given what's going on in the world around it, and it just has a very city-like feel to it. And here are the final two ghosts that we'll see. You can see the one on the left actually has a very strong feminine form. The belief is that the three male ghosts that we see represent the Boreal Outrider Knights that you actually fight around Lothric on your adventure, and then the final female form that we just saw represents the Dancer of the Boreal Valley, a boss that we have not yet encountered. We have a large Titanite shard, also we did pick up a soul item just a moment ago. Now in this next section, we have two Pontiff Knights flanking a Fire Witch, and as soon as you get close to the archway, they are going to start walking towards you. But before they can get to us, let's grab this large Titanite shard and head up these stairs and head into the Church of Yorshka. And here, we have familiar face number 1. Good ol' Anri.
Oh, I thought it might be you. Good to see you. I never managed to find Horace, but my duty must be done, even alone, as an unkindled Lord Seeker. For the children I knew, bless their souls. We all have our reasons, don't we? Please, take this. Recompense for my foolish request, and also a token of protection. May the flames guide your way.
Anri will give you the Ring of the Evil Eye. Now you can get this ring here, or you can get it in the Catacombs if Anri is still waiting for you after you've killed Horus. This ring captured the foul spirit of an evil eye, a creature that ravaged Astora. The horrid spirit nearly destroyed Astora, but was eventually defeated by the sword of one most noble. When you wear this ring, you will get 30 HP restored for every enemy that's killed.
Ah, you are brave indeed, to face your duty alone. I would do well to learn from you. May the flames guide your way.
Talking to Anri yet again will get you the Quiet Resolve gesture. And now Anri's quest can be split in two. You can continue to follow her quest, or you can continue to follow Yuria's. On this character, we're going to follow Yuria's quest. But on the black and white timeline Leylani, she is actually going to follow Anri's quest. And in order to do that, this statue directly behind us is not like the others, even though it sure looks like it. We'll find out from talking to Yuria in just a little bit that she has actually put someone in place to follow Anri to make sure that Anri ends up in the exact place that Yuria wants. Well, this statue is just that person.
But why? Lady Yuria.
And by killing this pilgrim, you'll get the Chameleon Sorcery. The chameleon sorcery will turn you into an object to help you blend into the surrounding, just like a young white branch. But more importantly, killing this pilgrim will set in motion the next step in Anri's quest. Now, if you're trying to follow Yuria and you just killed that pilgrim, Yuria is going to be none too pleased and you will have broken her quest. But for Black and White Timeline Leylani, frankly, that's just fine because we want to see Anri to the end and see if we can help him confront Aldrich. Let's head back to our regularly scheduled Leylani. From the Church of Yorshka, heading through those doors and down the stairs will progress the area. Over here in front of this one coffin, we get our first proof of a conquered kept, and yes, that is an ear. This is actually the covenant item of the Blades of the Darkmoon Covenant, a covenant that we have not yet met. We will do so further on in Irithyll Valley. Up here in this tower, you can see that there are some platforms, but there's no way up, so it looks like that is a one-way ticket only. Let's head back outside the Church of Yorshka, and instead of heading directly into that area with all the Pontiff Knights and the Fire Witches, we're actually going to take the high ground and circle around here to the left. On this corpse, you do get a Soul of a Weary Warrior, but you also get a great vantage point over this Fire Witch. It also gives you a great opportunity to get a plunging attack. And at this point, things would have been going really well had I actually lured this Fire Witch just a little bit away from the area to the left. But because I didn't, I now get everyone's attention. And well, I start to panic. One parry miss and several hits later, I realize it is time to get out of here. And now for this next flurry of attacks, let's count the parries. 1, 2, 3. 3 parries. And even a failed charge R2. Not my finest moment. Luckily, that is the more dangerous of the Pontiff Knights. Grab a Soul of a Weary Warrior. We have this gate at the top of the stairs. Does not open from this side, sadly. Just like every other gate that you'll encounter ever. And now, we have this Pontiff Knight singled out, and because he's turtling, you know what to do. And the finish. And he was kind enough to drop the Pontiff Knight leggings. Really good looking set of armor. On this corpse we have a lightning gem. We can see another item a bit higher up, but we'll have to get that from above. A gem of infused titanite found in the aftermath of dragon hunts. Lightning weapons inflict lightning damage and scale with fate. When you infuse a weapon with a lightning gem, which does require the giant skull, it will convert a little bit more than half of your physical damage to lightning. It will add faith scaling, but it does reduce your natural scaling. Hopefully a very obvious illusory wall. And hanging out on this corpse is the magic clutch ring. We've seen some of the clutch rings before, like the fire clutch ring, and this works similarly, only this time with magic. When you wear this ring, your magic damage will be increased by about 15%, but you will take an additional 10% physical damage. Definitely another risk versus reward scenario. And now, frankly, I'm looking for the Fire Witch. I truly have no idea where she went. I saw this glowing over here and I thought maybe she had actually glitched into the wall, but no, nothing there. I know that they have a patrol route, I just didn't think it extended that far that she would be out of sight. I didn't get any souls, so she didn't just fall through the world. I truly have no idea where she is. And look, another door that doesn't open from this side. Oh, you crafty Irithyll engineers. But at this point I figure, well, if the Fire Witch doesn't want to fight, I'm not going to complain. And we're actually going to head back to Firelink Shrine and talk to Yuria, and I know this video might be a little short, but I wanted to cut this at a natural breaking area because Irithyll Valley does have a few different NPC questlines tied together, and I wanted to make sure I gave all of them enough attention. But now let's talk to Yuria and see what she has to say about our dear friend Anri.
Speak thy desire, honorable Lord of Hollows. Our lord and liege. Knowest thou of a youth named Anri? He is hollow, and will join thee in wedlock.
I didn't even know we were dating.
A fellow of mine guides him at this moment. When the time is ripe, thou mayst make thy salutations. For what lord taketh no spouse? Till we meet again, may the dark sigil guide thee.
Well, Yuria, he might be guiding Anri in this timeline, but I can tell you in the black and white timeline, he's not doing so well. But ladies and gentlemen, that is actually going to do it for this episode of Everything Possible in Dark Souls 3. I hope you learned something, and if you did, please leave me a comment below and let me know what you learned. And if I missed something, as always, you have to put that in the comments as well so we can all keep learning. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.